and gentlemen, please welcome back Craig Wolf.
Good morning, everybody. Good morning. So this convention marks my 10th as president and CEO of WSWA. Thank you. Wasn't an applause line, but thank you. When I took the stage at the convention in 2007, I was excited and honored to lead this venerable organization. But to be candid, I was also a bit intimidated. WSWA had only 3 executives in its 63-year history to that time. Fred Switzer founded the organization in 1943 and created a strong foundation for the organization during the 35 years he served as executive director. I'm sure some of you remember him. During his 20-year tenure, Doug Metz built on the foundation laid by Fred to create a unified family of wholesalers committed to preserving and enforcing the 3-tier legal and regulatory framework. And of course, my predecessor, Juanita Dugan, who served for 8 years. Now, Juanita expanded the power and influence of the association on Capitol Hill. Her efforts led to the enactment of legislation expanding state 21st Amendment enforcement power and to the passage of the Domestic Spirits Tax Equity Act, IRS Section 5011, which puts millions of dollars in the pockets of wholesalers every year. Now, those were some big shoes to fill. But I was confident that with the right team and with an engaged, committed, and unified membership, WSWA would reach even greater heights during my tenure. And now I'm proud to say that WSWA is at the pinnacle of its power, prestige, and effectiveness. So, today I'm going to brag a little bit about WSWA. Not just for the sake of bragging, but to make a larger point, which I'll explain a little later. So, just what have we accomplished over the past 10 years? Well, let me tell you. We grew the PAC into an industry powerhouse, increasing it from $340,000 annually when I took over to over $1 million per year this past 4 years. And this year, we're already at $625,000 with more than half the year left to go. We've protected and preserved the 5011 tax credit for 11 years now. We achieved passage of the STOP Act and 2 resolutions supporting the We Don't Serve Teens campaign, which put Congress on the record as supporting strong state-based 3-tier regulation. We ensured that WSWA's model interlock legislation was preserved in 2 separate highway bills. We prevented the postal reform legislation that would allow unregulated direct shipment of beer, wine, and spirits through the mails. We've made sure that buy local remains the law in Hawaii and Alaska, requiring that spirits pass through wholesalers before they get to the military. We worked as part of a successful coalition that won passage of permanent estate tax reform. And we work year in and year out to make sure that LIFO is preserved and to make sure that the interests of family-owned businesses are heard in the debates over tax reform. And just last year, we led a groundbreaking effort in Congress to fund research designed to establish appropriate enforcement standards for marijuana-impaired driving. And we coordinated the passage of legislation that provide additional funding for formula and label approvals for TTB that has already significantly reduced the wait time for those approvals. In the courts, WSWA worked successfully to ensure that the Granholm decision would be respected in subsequent legal proceedings as a resounding and unequivocal and binding Supreme Court precedent upholding the unquestionably legitimate 3-tier system. And WSWA's voice is now heard in every regulatory agency in Washington. We work closely with the Alcohol, Tobacco, Tax, and Trade Bureau, as you would expect. And recently, we drafted a letter seeking guidance on category management issues, which was praised by that organization as the best structured inquiry on the subject, and which resulted in the most detailed and helpful response from TTB. But we also fight for your interests in rulemakings by the FDA, the NLRB. We weigh in on trade agreements and port labor disputes, and work with other federal agencies like the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration. During that same 10-year period, WSWA has expanded its involvement and influence at the state level as well as the federal level. WSWA's team of respected regulatory experts, Joe Moak and Jake Hegeman, are regularly called to lead panels at regional and national meetings of NABCA and the NCSLA, as well as at beverage alcohol legal conferences. Dawson Hobbs created and strengthened our political relationships with governors, attorneys general, legislators, and other state elected leaders around the country. His efforts to expand the advisory council and coordinate our member association lobbying efforts have turned what was once a small group of 10 to 15 participants into a thriving, engaged, energized, and more organized federation, with meetings regularly attracting 25 to 30 participants representing a majority of the states now. And our new state law database, which is now fully functional and which is open for business thanks to the efforts of Joe Moak, Jag Hegeman, and Reed Teschner. Now I want you to take a look at the cards on your table here and please spread the word. Will allow WSWA to become the go-to resource for important industry legal and regulatory information for industry members, lobbyists, and of course for legal counsel. There is no better single source that is searchable, updated, and ready for research than on the key laws and regulations that govern our industry than the SLD. We regularly weigh in on important issues with state elected officials, like marijuana legalization and deregulatory efforts by big box grocers. Most recently, WSWA was the only major industry association to speak out against the Empire Bill in New York, legislation which would have allowed retail licensees in that state to ignore other state direct shipping laws with impunity. When the governor killed that bill, his veto message paralleled and echoed the exact arguments made by WSWA against that legislation. And just last year, WSWA received a mandate from the board of directors, who recognized the increasing importance of state issues, to hire additional staff to actively lobby in coordination with member state advocates. Our newly reorganized government affairs team, with Dawson Hobbs at the helm, Riley O'Connor heading up the soon-to-be expanded federal affairs team of Catherine McDaniel and Allie Gormley, Jake Hegeman leading our regulatory and legal efforts, and Heather Callio, Reed Teschner, and Joe Moak forming the state affairs team, is a formidable force in Washington. But WSWA's successes over the past 10 years go far beyond government affairs. Consider our meetings and our conventions and achievements in those realms. For the past 9 years, WSWA's convention has grown in popularity, breaking records every single year. The last time we were in Las Vegas, we hit 2,500 attendees for the first time during the last 16 years that I've been with WSWA. This year, we surpassed that number with over 2,850 attendees, including a record number of wholesaler attendees. Our convention, led by Cindy Nachman-Senders and her team of Carrie Langerman and Becca Britt, is the class event of the industry, I think you would all agree, with great competitions, networking and relationship-building events, and business opportunities. We have inspirational speakers and the provocative, content-rich, value-added U.S. Beverage Alcohol Forum, which later today will introduce our innovative new brand battle, where a diverse array of products will make their pitch to an all-star panel of wholesalers and a guest celebrity judge, who will offer all attendees instructive guidance on what it takes to make it in our industry. Our Council for Leadership Development has been a particular focus of mine, because it is through that group that the next generation of leaders of WSWA and the industry are formed, and critical wholesaler relationships are built and fostered there. Our new chairman, Doug Epstein, our past chairman, Brian Fox, both chaired that organization, as did past chairman Stan Hastings, Johnny Aaron, and Smoke Wallen, among others. And our new secretary of the board of directors, Danny Wirtz, was also a chairman of that group. Participation in the annual Leadership Skills Conference, organized and managed by Carrie Langerman and taking place this July in Nashville, Tennessee, is at an all-time high. Now, when I took over 10 years ago, we were averaging about 30 to 40 attendees at this meeting, this crucial meeting. Last year in Oregon, we had over 70 future leaders participate. Moving to public affairs, we've never been more professional and cutting edge. Jeff Soulsby and Meg Taylor developed WSWA's new media program, incorporating professionally edited videos and a panoply of compelling communications tools. These videos, by the way, have dramatically improved our ability to advocate for WSWA, and they powerfully communicate our perspective to both internal and external audiences. Our revamped publications, including our electronic annual report and our biennial philanthropy report, and our broadened social media efforts provide our members, the industry, and elected officials with important and timely information concerning the scope of our activities and the community-oriented nature of our membership. Our outreach to both the industry and the media has never been quite as impactful as it is today. When I took over, we had no staff member dedicated to membership outreach. And today, Bob Wiggins has single-handedly created a program, of affinity programs rather, which generates millions of dollars in savings to members participating and brings an additional non-dues revenue to boot, which I think we can all be happy about. And just this past winter, Bob inked a deal which will allow us to update and publish an online and hard copy directory at no cost to the association. Of course, the benefits to our members do not end with the affinity programs. The WSWA Educational Foundation, created just 8 years ago with seed money provided by the Sidney Frank family, now provides $80,000 annually in scholarship money divided among 40 different applicants. Those are the deserving deserving children of workers of WSWA who are college bound. On your tables, you're going to see some handouts, and on your chairs, handouts for the WSWA Foundation. And I have a card here. We ran out of them actually the other day at the first session. So I ask you to take a look at the papers on your desk, please. I ask you to make a donation to WSWA Foundation today, please. All right. Now, beyond that, if we can move the thing forward, thank you. It helps me. Our newest member resource is WSWA's Women's Leadership Council, which had its first reception Monday night. This exciting new group will foster networking, provide a forum for exploring new ideas, offer educational opportunities for women in the wholesaling industry. Our finance and administration team, Sam Block, Catherine Brown, and Michael Steiner, keep the office running smoothly and our books in order. We've had clean audits since Sam came in to modernize and reorganize our finances with a zero-based budget process that focuses on economy and our spending priorities, and which requires annual justification of all expenses. Catherine led our office renovation efforts, which increased staff offices and workstations, added a new conference room, and created a unique, branded, and functional event space we use for events to help to benefit our lobbying efforts. Finally, WSWA is always thinking of new ways to provide value to our members and support the middle tier. A perfect example of this is WSWA's recent strategic alliance with Drizzly, which came about as the result of dedication, skill, and perseverance of Joe Moak, and which is now managed by new employee Arthur Rebish. Of course, I would be remiss if I didn't say that was brought to us by Southern Wine and Spirits, and of course, it was a great idea, and we're glad to be on board. Because of that, now WSWA can say that wholesalers are the strongest industry supporters of on-demand beverage alcohol home delivery that gives consumers what they want, when they want it, but in a way that guarantees responsibility, accountability, tax collection, and support for local businesses. Now, that's quite a list of accomplishments, and frankly, it's only a partial list of what we've done over the past 10 years. So why did I take the time to enumerate all these accomplishments? Well, for one, I wanted to recognize the great work of my team. And I'd be remiss if I didn't also mention the great work of my executive assistant, Lisa Bockelman, which she does every day, keeps me in line, keeps me on task. So I couldn't do what I do without her. But as I said earlier, I wasn't to brag or to seek praise. I did it to remind you of what we can accomplish when we are engaged, united, and committed. Today, our industry is changing rapidly. Challenges and uncertainty abound. What will be the impact of marijuana legalization on the industry? How will the proliferation and growing power of the craft segment affect and alter the marketplace? What will be the impact of consolidation at the supplier and wholesaler levels? What does the growing power and influence of big box retailers portend for the balance of power between the tiers? Does the existing state and federal regulatory structure encourage or stifle creativity, modernization, and technological advance? And perhaps the most troubling question of all, can I actually cast a vote for Hillary or Donald? Now, that's just a short list of the daunting questions that are top of mind these days. If you're expecting me, by the way, to try to answer those questions today, you're going to be disappointed, because I don't have the answers to those questions. But this I do know. WSWA has faced many challenges over the past 73 years. And the association has always had great leaders to help us overcome those challenges. But as we approach the 75th anniversary of the Wine and Spirits Wholesalers of America, I want to remind you that the continued success of this organization is dependent upon you. All wholesalers should recognize that the power of this organization is, and always has been, and it's always depended upon our unity, big and small, single state, regional, national players working together to defend our mutual interests against the challenges of the day. No company in any industry, however large or profitable, can by itself achieve that which is possible through a broad coalition sharing allied interests. When it comes to exercising influence politically, the collective always trumps the individual. Now, that doesn't mean there won't be disagreements in our association. And sometimes hard decisions will have to be made that won't always please everyone in the room. But you know what? That is part and parcel of what defines a successful organization. And what has made this association so great is that despite the fact that we compete against each other every day in markets across the country, we have always seen the big picture and put aside our differences in order to accomplish our larger collective goals. If we make the decision to stay on that road, to move forward with the same attitude and spirit we have had, not just over the past 10 years, but over the past 73 years, if we remain engaged, committed, and unified, I tell you there is no limit to what we can accomplish in the years ahead. Thank you.